Raideo.
So Turpin and I teach a course together, which kind of... Okay, remember your cohort? You can't forget your cohort.
I can't forget my cohort.
You were part of the cohort.
I was.
Yeah, that was an idea that we had when we were doing collab.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, oh, it'd be cool to have some like a cross-curricular course or do some things cross-curricularly because, we always hated the idea of students stepping into English class and then like forgetting everything about all these other subject areas or going into science. And I'm trying to teach them how to write an essay because I'm trying to develop their skills in terms of communicating science. And they're like, why are we doing this? This is not English
science.
Class,
this isn't English class.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of attitude and the idea that we have these siloed areas of the school where your skills don't matter in one area as much as another area. So that's kind of where the idea of the cohort came about. And then, of course, you guys got selected randomly, which came as a surprise to us, actually.
Yeah.
Because we were still meeting about it and thinking of ideas and how we would implement, and then it just got implemented at a staff meeting. And I was like, what? We didn't talk about doing it. So anyways, you were the guinea pigs for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was registered. There was like a group of 30 students, exactly like one class size full, essentially of people who did normal courses. Mm-hmm. So they did the regular curriculum. Mm-hmm. Right. And I was in that for like my first day of grade 8 and they pulled me out of the class. And I was like, it's like one of my first days of grade 8. Like, what did I do? Right. And they were like, oh no, you're going to do this other thing. And then we later found out that was like the cohort.
The experiment.
And then there was like those other students that just were doing like the control essentially. Yeah. So, but it was funny that I was like, oh, I almost wasn't in cohort. And it's such a like experience that people who were in it, like we talk about how like much of a unique experience it was. So
yeah. And I think it only lasted a couple years and then it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Did you find it positive?
I found it interesting.
Yeah.
I think that I understood a lot of, like I liked a lot of parts of it, but a lot of parts of it were also like, I think maybe a bit confusing, especially because like I feel like you're used to such a regimented kind of like separation. But obviously like, I mean, especially between sciences and science and math, like there's some very obvious like bridges between subjects and stuff. And then
totally.
It was interesting too because one whole aspect of the cohort was like sustainability and sustainable, specifically food systems, which is interesting because I ended up actually doing that in my undergraduate degree, kind of.
Yeah.
So, and so that was definitely interesting too because it was kind of like another aspect where it brought up kind of like current events.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, which is cool. And then the one thing like that I really remember, and I have a really poor memory, but is we had a course with the librarian at the time, which I'm not going to be able to remember her name. And
Schauler?
Yes, I think so. And we were talking about GMOs, and the narrative was like, GMOs are really bad for you. And like, here's some bad things that GMOs can do. And it's funny because when I got to my undergrad degree, I was like, oh yeah, GMOs suck. Like, these are the worst things ever. And then I took like one forced genetics course. And I found out that like a lot of GMOs are just like selective breeding of plants to get better strains.
Doing it for thousands of years. Yeah.
So little things like that. But that was like, it was just funny because I can't remember what the course like what it would have been compared to. Maybe a social studies of sense. But it was just funny because I was always like, oh wait, GMOs are kind of fine. I'm sure there's probably some scary GMOs out there.
There's a lot of negative stuff with anything, but you're right. The society likes to latch onto these buzz terms.
Yeah.
And sometimes they become like overtly negative through society, even though when you take a step back and actually look at it, it's like, oh no, that doesn't have to be bad.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and it was very much like I was in grade 8, so and I don't have a great memory, so maybe it wasn't meant like that narrative wasn't meant to be that way, but it was very much like we're gonna take this gene from a lizard and put it in a strawberry, and then I'm in my undergrad like course. And I have this like he was like this like Slavic guy, and he's talking to me about how you have to make sure you breed well because you can't just breed for size because your strawberry is going to taste like water. You want your strawberry to like taste good and be large. And like it was just kind of funny having it be like, oh, there are different narratives. And when you're so young, the narrative that you get from your teachers, like what you're kind of your base belief, you know, like so it was cool. But yeah, I think it was interesting to do. And then it's funny because I think in grade 9, we went back to like basically regular curriculum again. So, which was an interesting switch too. Yeah. And not to mention in my grade 8 year, we also had the teacher strike.
Oh.
So it shut down school at the end. So a lot of people who weren't going to pass their grade 8 courses actually made it through.
Yeah,
which is funny too.
Yeah. That poses its problems. And we had the same issues during the pandemic as well. There was a lot of forgiveness with not doing stuff and not showing up. Like the online teaching just worked out horribly.
Yeah, no one was set up for that.
No, and I think if the pandemic taught us anything, is that we have job security.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. People want a personal connection usually.
Yeah.
So that ended up becoming our thing. So and it's hard to set up a course like that because you need dedicated teachers who are who understand what it's about and then develop materials over time. And you were just the first year. So obviously it was really an experiment trying to figure things out still. Right. So we're going into our 8th year of innovation and it's been going really well.
Yeah. And I think when I think back to the first year, and how it's developed and how far we've come, it makes me feel really bad for the students that were in our first year. I'm like, oh my God, we didn't know what we were doing really. I mean, we kind of did. And there is a lot of the foundation stuff that hasn't changed, but it has to, you have to let something grow. You have to let it develop. If you pull the plug too quickly, you'll never know.
Yeah. And you really have to take the wins. I've been there for, we just, I guess not we, but like our outreach team at the museum just created a natural history museum science course. Cool. So they were piloting it this past semester. And something that we really took from that is like you really have to take the wins. Like a lot of things, maybe things didn't go perfectly or you thought of a better way to do something. But like if the students learned things and if they enjoyed it, like
take the win.
Take the win.
Oh, I love that.
So, Aliye, you work at the BD Biodiversity Museum.
Yes,
which is actually how we got you onto the podcast because we were doing a field trip there and then we just happened to see you.
Yeah. Such a crazy, I did not expect it. I was like, oh my gosh, I got so excited.
Right. So I guess you're talking about outreach, but you probably also think a lot about your museum and how you display things so that people can really get an education and understand how biodiversity works and all the different flora and fauna that are on the earth. So how much would you say your role is about communicating those things and trying to get people engaged with what you're interested in?
Yeah. So one interesting thing about my role at the museum is that I work as my official title is a collections assistant. So with the entomology collection, which is the insect collection. So my role actually has very little to do with outreach in a typical museum interpreter sense. I think our museum might be one of the only museums in the world where our research collection is actually inside of the public side of the museum. So a lot of natural history collections will have, their whole collection of insects. We have like 650,000 insects. And they'll keep them like behind a door.
Yeah.
And then the public side is all exhibits. It's all like, different, maybe specimens are there, but it's there to like be very engaging and specifically for public viewing. So as someone who works on the collection, when we enter the collection, which is actually what I was doing when I ran into you guys, and that's kind of when you get to interact with people. So you open that cabinet and it's like drawers of insects and everybody has the same reaction when they're walking by and they're like, what is all that? Like, I didn't know these doors opened. I think that it's funny because a lot of our museum is like black because it's cabinets with actual research specimens in it. So it's not as like interactive as one might think it would be.
So there is no back room, or do you have more?
We do have back rooms, but it's not for it's not where we actually like
store specimens.
The specimens are stored
so it's
right
all
in the
out
collection.
there.
Which is interesting specifically from a curatorial like kind of standpoint because it means that you like when you go out there, you're with the public.
Yes.
So we have Mondays, the museum's closed. So if you need to do stuff in the collection, you can just be right there and like have all your drawers. Like, so we do, one of the roles we do as a curator is like taxonomic updates. So if a whole family of insects like changes names or something crazy happens, you have to reorganize that in your collection, which can be like a really big job. Yeah.
It's kind of cool for the people who come in though, because they can see you at work, right?
Whereas, yeah.
Like if you go to the Smithsonian, I know they have large collections in the back somewhere, and you can't actually see them actually working. You just see what's out there for the public to see.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember this statistic off the top of my head, but it's something like most museums only ever have about 10 to 15% of their entire collection on display at any given moment.
Yeah.
And you think about some of the great museums of the world where you could spend hours in there and you think, wow, I've only saw 10 to 15% of what is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's crazy. And it's also so interesting because I really didn't know about the happenings of a natural history museum and like all the different interacting like parts of it. For example, like outreach and communication, and then also the entire like assisting researchers, making sure the collection is actually like, again, like up to date for people to be able to use it and find stuff in it. And, each insect has data. So like we have 650,000 insects, we have that much data for it. So there's so much more management that you don't really like appreciate. Until you're like kind of in it and you're like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. And it is interesting to have, like, we wouldn't do a taxonomic update of a whole family while we're open just because like specimens could get damaged and things. But it is so interesting to think about the fact that, every time I'm checking my ID, like I ID terrestrial insects, every time I want to make sure it's the beetle I say it is, I go into the collection and you interact with people and they are like, why do you have a beetle in your hand? I think I was holding like a ground beetle, a carabid, when I was talking to you guys, like on my little like foam piece of paper on a pin.
That's right. Yeah.
So, which is funny. Just because I was going out there just to see if it was what I said it was.
So do you is part of what you do also visiting other museums, or do you communicate with people who work in your role at other museums as well? Like when you go to a place, do you make it a point to visit their natural history museum to check it out to see what it's like?
Yeah, I think definitely now I would. I haven't gotten that chance yet. So the RBCM, which is the Royal British Columbian Museum, their insect collection is closed right now. And it's because they're moving all of their research specimens to a new site that's not in downtown Victoria. And they have they're getting a whole new building, large space kind of thing. So, and they've been doing that, I think, since I started. I started this position last year. So, but then, we interact with other museums in terms of like loan material, working with researchers that work at other museums. And occasionally we come across times where you also want to discuss the database that another institution use or discuss how they organize their collection or something. But I came into this job kind of when the curatorial decisions have been like kind of largely made. So it hasn't been too much like collaborating in terms of like how are we going to do something, because my boss, who's the curator, has been there for 30 years. So she's developed a system and I think she's been with the collection. She started as a curator in 91, and she was working in the collection as an undergrad in 84, before the BD even existed.
Yeah. So, How long has the museum existed?
It's 2010 it opened, the BD Museum. So before that, our collection existed for the zoology department, just as its individual thing. Yeah.
Wow.
So, Turpin, what natural history museums have you been to?
Well, I mean, that depends what you'd classify as a natural history museum. I've been to the Royal BC Museum and seen their specimens. Not everything, obviously. I've been to New York. I've been to the Natural History Museum in New York City. I mean, there are lots of museums that have exhibits. They're not specifically natural history museums, but they have specimens on display. I mean, I love museums. I go to museums everywhere I go. That's like my Disneyland, but not Disneyland, because Disneyland is its own thing. But when I go to a city, if I'm traveling somewhere, what I want to see is museums.
Yeah.
My primary objective is history museums, but sometimes they're lumped together. And if it's in the museum, I want to go see it. One of my oldest childhood memories is being at the Royal BC Museum and seeing the woolly mammoth, which I think everyone who lives in British Columbia has that memory, right? As a core memory, seeing woolly mammoth. What about you? What natural history museums have you been to?
The New York one. That was cool.
They had dinosaur bones. That's always really cool.
They also have a huge I forget what kind of dinosaur in the lobby as you come in.
Yeah.
Is that where Night of the Museum was filmed?
Yeah.
I've never been to there.
I've actually never seen the movie.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, I know. I should see it.
It's for kids.
That's funny. You've never been to the museum.
Everybody.
I've never been to the movie or seen the movie, so I can't verify. But
The Smithsonian, the Washington D.C.
I wanna
Natural
get
History
to
Museum.
Washington.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
London. I think we went to. It wasn't a natural history museum, but some science museum in Paris as well.
Yeah. You're very worldly.
Yeah.
But I like going to see those kinds of museums because I'm into that kind of stuff. And also it's cool to see how they value certain things and display certain things. Like if you go to one of the coolest displays at the one in Washington, D.C. on the main mall there is like a whole wall of just birds and all sorts of birds. And it's all like sorted in a certain order, but they have like a giant wall of birds. For the New York one, I remember going into this space where it's like 2 levels and it's darker and it's all sea life all around.
Oh, cool.
So it kind of gives you the feeling almost like you're underwater because they have this kind of blue glow. Yeah. It's cool going to different museums and seeing how they do things differently. Yeah.
Can you take us back to the start? Can you tell us your journey? Like,
yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like the super long version or however much detail you want, but like, how did you get from Delview to your position?
Yeah.
What was the path?
So in high school, I always wanted to be a marine biologist. Like I was obsessed. I volunteered at the aquarium. All my work I guess it's called work experience.
Wex.
Yes.
Wex, yeah.
It was also Vancouver Aquarium. So when I was applying to schools, UBC had an animal biology program. And I said, that's better than a normal biology program. And then I applied and I actually ended up in the agricultural sciences faculty by accident so my degree ended up being what's called applied animal biology. And where you learn kind of about animals very much, but in applications towards agriculture and like you learn about food systems, which was really cool. So I still was determined on being a marine biologist, even though I was on land. And in one of my courses, I took all the animal ones. So there was an invertebrate course, and in my invertebrate course, they organize it by phylums. So you work through the different phylums and then kind of go into the different organisms that are in that phylum. And when we got to insects, we dissected a cricket. And I remember opening up this little cricket, and they have what's called the crop. So their stomach, and it was like full of carrots. And I just thought it was the cutest thing. And for some reason, I became obsessed with insects. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just became obsessed with insects. And then I had a friend who was part of this wildlife club at UBC. And I just like followed the Instagram account and never joined it, never did anything. But they had this posting on their Instagram story for a volunteer position at a lab IDing insects. And I was like, well, as a newfound insect lover, that sounds wonderful to me. And it was all volunteer work, but I like identified, I think, 1,500 insects to the family level, and I was just hooked. And then I spent, I think, 4 years with that lab doing my undergrad research work.
You identified 1,500
to family level, which is less impressive to
but still.
No, that's big.
That's quite a lot.
And it was actually, I guess I must have joined the lab I guess it was November 2020. So shortly, I was at home. So what it kind of ended up being, I guess what people would call like a COVID project. I didn't really associate it with the time, but they gave me a scope at home. There's like different materials you can use. And this lab that I work for, they work on social spiders normally and tropical ecology. But because it was COVID, they did a local collecting trip project. Cool. So all local insects, and I ended up just IDing them at home, like kind of on my bedroom floor throughout COVID. So
did your parents like that?
Yeah, that's the funny thing is my mom is like, she's better now because I ended up working on spiders as well. Especially she hates spiders; she's terrified of them. But I think I've trained her to accept them now.
I'm not a spider lover.
No. You'll be at spider level. It's not hard to switch.
If you see a spider in your home, what do you usually do?
I just leave it.
You just leave it.
I just look the other way. It's none of my business that there's a spider.
Well, okay, spiders have a benefit, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't shoo them out.
Sometimes if it's like I guess my little phrase would be like, I have a personal bubble that I don't like anybody to intrude on.
Right.
Spider, people, insect.
Okay, for me, it's my entire house. So I'll throw
You wouldn't
them out.
want some random stranger in your home.
No,
it's okay if you
no.
don't want a random spider in your
Go
home.
outside. Yeah.
Do you kill spiders or do you remove them?
I do.
You kill them.
That's okay.
I use a vacuum.
Oh my god.
So technically, I don't kill them. They're stuck in my vacuum.
You contain them.
I'm collecting a specimen.
You're like a Ghostbuster.
Yeah, that's true. All
That's
you need
hilarious.
to do is keep track of where, when, and who collected it, and it could become a museum specimen.
That's hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah. See?
This is a Dyson
I don't just
collected
smash
spider. This is
I don't hit them or anything.
Okay, so you're doing the research during COVID.
Yes, yeah. So,
And
okay. So I guess I ended up with this lab. This project was probably like one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I met this mentor, which was a PhD student, and he basically like, I don't want to say like created me, but like created me as a scientist.
yeah.
We had he really prioritized like the human part of science, which was just like incredible. And like we would talk through all the different things that was happening, like methodology.
What do you mean by the human part of science?
I guess that it's very easy as scientists to believe that it's like very robotic.
Right.
You produce, you ask a question, you do your methodology, you do the stats to prove that you found an answer, and you publish. But there's so much more that goes into these questions we're asking, and you hit a lot of philosophical kind of ideas. Okay. You know, like a limit of understanding kind of idea, why we're asking these questions, why
I love that
something
stuff.
interesting.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting for me because I was doing so much of this work, like volunteering, just because I was purely interested in it. You kind of ask yourself, you're like, first I was like, I want to get research experience because I want to go to grad school probably, or because I want to have something on my resume. I didn't do co-op. So, but you start to continue to do these projects for free, and you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I asking these questions? What do I find interesting? How do I answer these questions? Like, it can be really philosophical. And to be able to have somebody who like really fosters those conversations is really important to me, because you kind of also like in my undergrad, I started and I wasn't doing so well in the courses, which really confused me, because as someone in high school, good grades were pretty easy, came easily for me. And then you get to undergrad and you're like, everything's different. I don't understand what's happening. I didn't set up a good study habits. And you want to break into this whole field of academia, and you think that these people are like incredibly intelligent, and like, you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't do that because these people are geniuses, and I'm just like someone who can't do first year chemistry. But you start to just like change your the way you think about things, and you realize that you just need to develop that kind of thinking. And everyone thinks differently. Not even like I'm not articulating myself very well. Everyone thinks so differently that it's important to like learn what works for you, and you can, given space, you can be as intelligent as those people. It is not an innate thing, I guess. It's something that you can develop.
Also, everybody comes from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So it's important that we have some diverse ideas. And that's how you get creative in science.
Yeah, which is something, again, that's like, I mean, old school academia can be very like right and wrong. Right and wrong, and like, again, like the idea that like if you are wrong, you are not intelligent enough, or you are not thinking about it. You're just not thinking. And you realize as you keep going and as you learn a way to develop your thoughts, and if you pay attention to like the gut feelings you have, you can understand, like, you know, if we're talking about like what a hypothesis is, for example, and someone's saying something and they're a grad student and they've been in the field, I don't know, 8 years, and you're an undergrad, you're in your second year, you're not gonna, something feels weird about what they're saying. It doesn't feel like it's quite right. But you have this weird thing that's kind of been like that you're like, oh, I don't want to interrupt them, or I don't want to, like, it's like this authority they have over you.
There's a hierarchy.
Yes, which is also interesting, and you kind of stop trusting yourself. because you just listen to authority so much. And actually, so I guess kind of, oh my gosh, this has been so roundabout. But going back to,
this is good.
No, this is excellent. Yeah.
I was working on a research project, so with this mentor, and I actually went to the Amazon for the project to study social spiders. And he had this methodology issue. We were in the middle of the jungle. We couldn't contact anybody. And it was just him and we were the only people who spoke English.
Yeah.
I guess there was a French guy that would come sometimes. But he was trying to work through this problem in the methodology. And he couldn't decide what to do. And he kept asking me. And he was like, well, what do you think we should do with this spider versus this spider? And I was like, I don't know spiders. And he's like, no. What do you think we should do? And he's asking me again, and we're hiking through and I'm like in the middle of the jungle, and it's like hot, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't study spiders. I'm an undergrad student. And he was like, no, you can figure it out because you can think, because you're a human. Just think about it. Like, I wasn't even giving myself a moment to be able to start to think about it. And we ended up solving the problem. And it's weird that you have this thing, like in high school, you respect your teachers, you respect your professors in university. I guess you're supposed to respect your teachers, believe it or not. Yeah. And there is this hierarchy, and you start to just trust. And what would happen is I've worked on like 4 or 5 projects with this grad student. And what would happen is on these projects is I would just trust his logic because he was a grad student. He knew more than me, and we'd hit mistakes. And he'd be like, oh, well, did you not think about that? And I'm like, no, I didn't think about it because you didn't think about it. But it's like, so he really, really emphasized the fact that it doesn't matter how much you know about a system, because there is always an underlying kind of, it does matter sometimes. If you're asking me how long a spider lives for, I don't know, but there is in science, and when you follow kind of the scientific format of a question, a hypothesis, methodology, you can think about those things logically without understanding specific parts about maybe the organism. Or maybe you need to maybe you are thinking about the logic, but then you hit a point where you're like, oh, I don't know what this ecological theory means. Okay, go read about it, and then you can add to your logic flow or make sure it makes sense. But it was really, really it was, again, one of the best things I've ever done, because I hit a moment where it was just kind of a breakthrough. And then now I'm in lab meetings, and it doesn't matter who's talking. It can be the PI, it can be a grad student, it could be an undergrad. And you get to this moment where you're like, hold on, my gut's telling me that something doesn't feel right about their logic. Right. And you just ask the question. Yeah. You just investigate it, I guess, which is interesting.
And hopefully organizations like that are open to that kind of thing, right? Because you can see how, I just watched a documentary last night on Netflix about the Titan.
Did you watch? How was it?
The Ocean Gate. Yeah. And a lot of their issues had to do with the CEO. Yeah, that's the submersible that got imploded when they were going to the Titanic. A lot of their issues stemmed from the fact that it wasn't open to discussion, and the CEO would just fire people for disagreeing with him. And so when you have that, it can get into a dangerous situation with life and death being on the line. And the same thing with the dynamic on an airplane between pilot and co-pilot. That thing's been, talked about recently as well because of a few things that have happened. Or between the pilot and the
air traffic control. Yeah, you watch a movie like Sully, when he has to land the plane in the Hudson River. Yes, you see that. Yeah, it's super important that you have that trust, but that you communicate. And
when there is a hierarchy, sometimes people are less or more hesitant to communicate, even if there's lives on the line, right? Which is a dangerous situation.
And it's so fascinating to me, because something I also talked about with this grad student is the fact that it's not an innate thing to trust hierarchy or to kind of trust authority. You have kids, and from the get-go, it's like they're being told, don't act out. You have to trust this person because they're older than you, because they know more than you. You don't know enough. And then all of a sudden you hit a point where you're like, oh, I don't know enough. And I think it really limits people. And I find that most respectable companies, organizations, people will respect the fact that you asked the question, that you said, hey, this doesn't really add up to me. And at the very least, you learn why it didn't add up. Maybe you're like, this logic doesn't make sense. But they're like, oh, this is why you might not be understanding it. Now you know. for next time. Or maybe there is a problem in the logic and they weren't thinking about something that you thought about. And it's, which is really inspiring to me because I'm like, doesn't matter who you are. Just ask the question, trust that gut feeling that like something's weird here. Like, does it make sense to put this submarine here, even though this math is wrong, or whatever it might have been. So, which is really cool.
So you've been at the Biodiversity Museum for a year now.
Yeah.
And what kind of things are exciting about that position at this moment? What kind of stuff is coming up that you're interested in?
Yeah, so I had basically no idea what the job entailed when I started.
Right.
It wasn't something like I was just doing basically like hard research and not, we didn't deposit our specimens there or anything. So I was like, I don't really know what I'm stepping into right now. But one thing with our collection, we're regional. So we're basically mainly British Columbia and the Yukon. We don't have insects from all over the world. I think if we had insects from all over the world, we'd take up the whole museum. So
it'd be too big. Yeah.
It's square footage now. But and so because of that, we're in a temperate region. Insects are seasonal. Like with our seasons, our work is very seasonal. So we do collecting trips in the summer, which is like the best part of the job. You get to go hike around to look for different types of insects. We participate in things called a BioBlitz. Have you guys heard about a BioBlitz before?
No.
It's like it's hosted by different people can host it. So one that we attend, and the collection itself has been attending for like almost, I think, 15 years, upwards maybe to 20 years. It's been going on for 20 years. It's from the Whistler Naturalist Group. And they host like just such an amazing event. And they bring up naturalists of all sorts of organisms. So you got birders, people who are like mycologists, fungus people, insect people like ourselves, various different types of people. And you go and hike into a certain location and you create a species list. So you just try and look for absolutely every organism you can find. And when you get to that level, you do need experts in the field. Like I don't know anything about fungus, so they have to bring a fungus person. And sometimes different years have different focus. So this year, I was just there I guess last week, we were up in June. Or we were up doing, I don't know where we were, Callahan Lake, and we're just looking, and the thing of this year is slime molds. That's what I was going to say. So slime molds, we have slime mold experts come, and they're looking for different types of slime molds, and they're making a book about it. So we participate in these collecting events, and since we've been going for like 15 years, the collection's been going, you don't very often add new species to the list, but you do like 1 or 2 a year, maybe up to 5 new species of insects for 20 years of sampling in like the Whistler area. Is pretty impressive. So
you're talking about species that have been undiscovered.
Not new to science, just new to the area.
Okay.
Sorry, that's an important note. So it'd be one like we went to Whistler however many years ago. We sampled like certain parks. We created kind of like a baseline over the years, and now every year we go up. Occasionally, you still find something, and you're like, oh, we've never had this for Whistler before. Like this is a new one for Whistler. Which for insects is cool. I mean, there's so many species like of insects in the world, even in BC. As someone who did like a lot of tropical work, I did not appreciate our local fauna nearly enough until I started working here, which is really cool. So we'll participate in BioBlitzes, which is our fun and different like biodiversity sampling projects. We're actually working also on the Vancouver Convention Center's green roof.
Oh, cool.
So we're sampling the insects there. They did, I guess, I keep saying I wasn't there yet, but they sampled insects from 2016 to 2017. I guess until COVID. And then it kind of like, I don't know, everything shut down basically. So, and then it didn't pick up until recently. So it's going to be cool to see kind of how the biodiversity has changed since the last time we've sampled.
Was there a difference in biodiversity during COVID when there were like less people around, especially that period? Because, I mean, the air seemed noticeably cleaner because there were fewer people driving around. But
they were talking like, couldn't you see through the canals of Venice? The water was so much cleaner and stuff like that. Like, there had to have been impact on ecosystems.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Someone who, this is also the really great thing about having the curator of the collection, being an entomologist for so many years and with the collection for so many years, is that she has so much anecdotal data. Like she'll tell you in a heartbeat insects are on decline right now, like just abundance levels. Like, I don't know if you guys even remember when you were like kids, if you grew up in BC, there's like way more insects. And it's hard to tell with anecdotal data like that because it's like, oh, was it because I was outside more as a kid and now I'm outside less as an adult? But I will say by far there's far less insects now than there was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We used to catch grasshoppers when I was a kid. I mean,
grasshoppers here? Really?
Or crickets or whatever you call them. I don't know. We used to find them quite a bit.
I think I've maybe seen a couple of grasshoppers. I don't see a lot of grasshoppers here.
Oh, we used to catch them all the time in the summer.
Really?
Yeah, we had these little terrarium, I guess. The ones you buy at the toy store, and it has like a little magnifying glass in the roof so that you can like take a close look at it, and then you'd be like, look, I found a grasshopper, and all the kids would run over, and you'd get bored of it in an hour, and you'd let it go, and it was fine.
Really? No, I grew up in Richmond. I don't remember any grasshoppers there. I remember a lot of like crane flies.
Yeah.
Tons of, not as many anymore. So that's one thing that's gone. I remember like just tons of them being all around our school, and kids would mess with them.
I'm sure they would. It's hard to tell too because there is also like a cyclical pattern to some insects, and I'm not sure. I'm not knowledgeable on like which different groups and how many years you should expect them. Yeah. But I do think that there is just like a noticeable lack of things buzzing around. Like it's interesting when I was in Ecuador for my tropical field season, we would talk about how alive the forest felt. And we were in this one location and we couldn't find any of the spider species that we wanted to work on. And the whole forest felt like not dead, but just it wasn't alive. And it's interesting because that comes from like the happenings of the forest, which a lot of it's like if you have insects, you'll also have a lot more birds. You'll have a lot of other things. So it's kind of like, it's cool to notice. You're like, oh, somebody's missing. And it's like the insects flying around. That's kind of the way I think about it. Obviously biased. But.
So your job and your interests have brought you around the world. You've been to the Amazon. You've been to, you mentioned Ecuador. What other places have you been to?
Honestly, just Ecuador. For work. Just Ecuador.
Okay,
so far.
Yeah, we'll see.
So what was Ecuador like?
That was also like...
Did you go to the islands?
No. You know what? I don't know why I didn't.
You're so close.
I know. And it's like one of my biggest... I had like kind of the opportunity to go. Yeah. It was like... So I was working with this grad student doing projects, and he was like, hey, I need a research assistant for this project in the Amazon. Like, do you want to go? No one says no to that. Yeah. And I don't care who you are. No one's saying no to that. So it ended up being kind of an interesting time because... we went to this first site, you're kind of nervous, like not really sure what to expect. It was my first time being like a proper in the field research assistant. And the first site we go to, again, like I mentioned, none of the species were there. I think we found one colony of spider. Do you guys know that spiders can be social? Should I?
Well, you mentioned
social spiders. And
I guess I could, that's kind of a fun fact. So spiders can be social. They can live in colonies up to like 1,000 spiders in one really large web. It's kind of like something from a sci-fi movie. It's very cool.
Oh, you would hate that.
Wow. Well, I tell spiders to go away, so that's not being social.
that's not very social.
So if they're social, then I'll talk to them. Yeah. Okay, now I know.
So they're webs because there's like a whole. So this is what my PI studied. Was why are social spiders, or why are spiders social? Sorry. So they live completely egalitarian.
Wait, are all spiders social?
No, some spiders.
Some spiders are social.
She says, why are some spiders social?
Right.
Some are not, and some are.
Okay.
I think there's like, oh man, if any of my lab people listen to this, they're going to be disappointed. There might be like 7 genera.
Okay.
Or 7 species. 8 species that it's evolved in. And we're always asking like, why did that happen?
Yeah, why did that happen?
Like, what's going on? So they're completely egalitarian. There's no queen, no hierarchy like ants. And they have incredibly female biased sex ratios. That's like 5 female to 1 male. And she studied, I'm going to get kind of nerdy and I'll just be brief, but she studied like what's one reason that could happen. And she talked about multi-level selection. So natural selection happening both at the individual level, but then also at the colony level. So kind of looking at the spider colony as an individual that's like reproducing. The colonies have different diversity levels.
Interesting.
And so looking at the different kind of like interacting levels of selection, that's as much as I'm going to go into it. So anyway, they're social spiders. And we were looking for the comparison of social spiders to colonial spiders, which is something else. Colonial spiders build little webs. Those like orb webs?
Yeah.
Yes.
They build like a lot of little orb webs, kind of like an apartment complex.
Right.
and they can change webs, but they're a lot more like territorial. So social spiders are pretty like harmonious. They cooperate in prey capture, cooperate in brood care, very like peace, love, happiness. Okay. And the colonial ones are a bit more aggressive. So we were looking for both of those. We get to this one site, there's like no spiders that we want there. Not the two like species we were hoping for. So we go to another spot, and this other spot is very intense. It's like a 2-hour walk into the jungle. There's no running water, no electricity. There's a generator, but yeah.
Are you camping there?
We are in like kind of a shed, like a hut, I guess one might call it. Okay. It's like a structure. Yeah. And it's interesting. They build it out of like the trees that have fallen. So there's this one guy, this French guy, who traveled all over South America and Central America, I guess, teaching English to different people. And he just like wanted to start a conservancy. So he started buying farmland from people in Ecuador that it was like farmers owned a bunch of jungle, and he would buy it from them to be able to keep it from being cut down. So they own like, I don't know, X amount of land of the jungle. And they use the wood that's like from fallen trees to build these structures. And then one of the structures is like a kitchen, but there's tents on top. And then I was in like kind of a little cabin area, but it was kind of open to it was like, had like mesh instead of walls on one side. So it was very, very intense. Yeah, it was just a crazy experience. And like, you're not talking. I had a satellite phone, like GPS thing, and you're like not talking to anybody, but you're sending fragmented texts to people, and you're like holding it up, but it's cloudy, so it's like not sending the message. And I was there. We were the longest people. The people had stayed in the jungle the longest, and it was 40 days of that, like straight. And it's like cold showers.
Wow.
Cold showers. No, like,
you were there for 40 days.
Yeah, like in this one location. So it was, and I would like, sometimes I'd be hiking behind the grad student, I'd just be sobbing. Like, I'd just be crying because I was like, I'm like, we can't, and this is the other thing, we're hiking around, we're still not really finding the species that we want to study. So now we take like 3 days at the start of the month, and we're trying to minimize our time here at the start, before, little did we know, we'd be there for 40 days. And we end up finding like enough colonies, but they're like kilometers apart. Wow. So now we wanted to run like prey capture circuits. So you go back to each web and see if they've caught new prey. Yeah. But we have to organize it in such a way because they're like literally kilometers apart from each other. So it was like, it was a very unique experience. And in the middle of it, there's like a protest that happens in Ecuador.
Oh no.
And it's different indigenous groups, and I think just local community members as well, protesting against things like the cost of living, the cost of gas, oil companies destroying the forest, like a whole bunch of issues. And they shut down all the major roadways leaving Quito, which is the capital city. And one thing about Ecuador is a lot of their, they have a very internal economy. So everything's produced in Quito and like produced within Ecuador. It's very circular. So no food was moving. No food was leaving Quito. So then we had...
Which you had to hunt?
Luckily, one of the rangers owned a farm, and he produced a lot of bananas and plantains and avocados. Okay. I hate bananas, but that was like the most that we had, like the most abundance of food. We had other food, like we weren't starved. Right. We were just not. We didn't have a lot of food. Yeah. And one of the main foods was bananas. So I hate the cold. Like, I don't like cold water or cold showers. I'm not one of those people. And then I hate bananas. And then I'm like in this middle of this jungle, and I was like, this is
You're
like...
You're going to get all the stuff you hate until you love it.
And I had mites. I had to, for some reason, I don't know how. I don't even know if they were on my body. I don't know if they were in my boots. But I had like you had to hike in gum boots because it's like the rainforest. And my gum boot part of my leg was covered in like a million... essentially mosquito bites, like bug bites of some sort. Anyways, it was an experience.
What about other...
Turpin, this is not camping.
No, I know, but like...
This is like between camping and glamping, right? She's not even in a tent. What Turpin hates camping.
Yeah, I'm not an outdoorsy person.
Before. What?
He's never done it before.
No.
You've never camped before?
No, it was one of the things that my parents had in common when they got married is they both hated camping as kids. So they didn't take my brother and camping.
We are never doing
No, and like the whole notion of it just seems absurd to me. It's like, yeah, let's go spend thousands of dollars to live like the homeless for the weekend. Like, why would I want to sleep outside? I have a perfectly good house.
She did 40 days.
I guess you're also not a bug person, but
I mean, I don't mind bugs. I'm really like anti-snake.
There are snakes out there.
Oh, that's true.
Our
snakes here are so chill, though.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I like living here because the snakes here are chill. I don't have to worry about them. Did you come across snakes?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I just completely forgot. So I went like 2022 to this. So, but I have so many crazy jungle stories. So I don't know if I'll remember them. But so we're hiking along one day, and what's the name of the snake? A bushmaster? Does that resonate with anybody?
No.
Okay.
And I
sounds like a gun.
It sounds like a gun.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to Google it.
I feel like that's the common name of it. I don't.
Okay.
And anyway, it's like a 3-meter long snake.
Yeah.
And it's large, and it's sleeping under. There's these things called walking palms. Walking palms,
Yeah.
and they their roots kind of create a little.
What? What's a walking palm?
Oh, it's like a tree.
Oh, it's a plant.
It's a tree. Sorry,
Okay.
and it's I don't even know if it's a true. Like I don't know if it looks like a palm tree. I don't think I ever looked up actually, but they have these root systems that kind of create like a little, like a what's it called, a cone, I guess, shape.
Oh, there you go. That's a bushmaster.
Is it a snake?
Lachesis.
Oh, I don't like it.
Okay, very large, and
It says deadly.
yeah, it's super deadly. It's a
Bushmaster.
It's a viper. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Is it venomous?
Yes.
Let me see.
Nice correct use of
How venomous is
venomous
a
and not
Yes, yes. I worked at the aquarium for a little while.
Oh yes, you did. Yeah.
The bite of a bushmaster is one of the deadliest snake bites in the world, with a high mortality rate even with treatment. The snake's striking speed is so rapid and its venom is produced in such large quantities that it's able to kill almost anything that crosses its path. There you go.
I'm so glad I didn't have access to Google. While
Oh, I don't like this at all.
Okay,
Why is its head so big?
So we're walking along a trail, and all of a sudden, this guy puts his arms out and like stops me, and I'm like, "What is happening?" And it's asleep, curled up under this walking palm, like under this little like cone structure of roots. And we're like,
Look
okay,
how big this thing is.
So
I
then,
don't like it.
how long? I think it gets up to like 3 meters.
That looks longer than 3 meters.
Oh, that looks pretty long. Oh, who's picking it up?
Yeah, who's picking it up?
I don't know. Maybe it's the French guy.
Maybe it's the French.
Look at that guy.
No.
Wow.
So it's so
I
crazy.
don't
So
like this.
it's sleeping under this palm, and
Yeah.
so we're like, okay, what do we do? Because we still have spider webs to sample. You know, anything, literally anything for science, of course.
Yeah.
So we jut around the trail. We're like, okay, we'll just watch it when it comes back. So we like go really far around it. It's sleeping because they sleep during the day. They're active at night. And when we came back, we called it, I don't know, I'm going to butcher my Spanish now, but La Hora de Serpente or something like that. The hour of the snake.
Okay.
Because every time we'd be out in the field at like 6 p.m., we'd see a snake and a large, like we saw, I think, 3 bushmasters while we were there. So we come back and it's like 5:45 and we're like, uh-oh. And it starts slowly moving across the trail and it's headed out for the night to go hunt. And it was like the craziest experience because it just, we watch it leave under the walking palm and it just keeps going. And it keeps going. And
It's
it
long.
keeps going. It's long. And it trails away into the forest and we book it back to the place and we're like, no, this is not okay.
No.
This is not okay. But
See, I don't
yeah.
mind our snakes because they're not
No.
They're
venomous.
chill.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
they're chill.
And they don't we don't have anything large enough to constrict us.
No, yeah.
What about like illness? Like, did you have like colds and flus while you were in the
40
jungle?
days.
No,
it's a long time not to get sick.
actually.
No?
No flus. Mites. I had mites.
Yeah.
That was
But in addition to snakes, the other thing I'm afraid of is stomach viruses. And like
Okay.
with like, unique food supplies your body's not used to and stuff. You didn't have any problem?
I did have some stomach problems,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
nothing like, it was like just kind of like, I think, a one-off.
Okay.
And you know what's interesting? So there was an undergraduate student from the university in Ecuador, one of the major ones. And she said that she was taking a microbiology course and that they went around to all of the food like stalls and drink stalls around and tested the food products, and like so many of them had E. coli in it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, gosh.
yeah. So, but while I was out there, I was eating like farm fresh. I was probably eating like the best
had all
bananas.
banana
Yeah, you were probably
diet.
having all bananas.
She's
Yeah.
not going to have a stomach
So
problem.
I guess, but it was just like, there's so many times like that it was just such a surreal experience. There's one time where we're cooking dinner and there's like a pile of onions and we like turned our back and you look back around and there's a tarantula like on top of all of our onions, which is just so funny. It was hilarious. And we're like, tarantulas shed hairs. So we're like, I guess we can't eat those onions. Like, we're thinking, can we save the onions? And honestly, tarantulas are like one of the chillest spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
They're so cool.
But after they crawl all over your onions, you can't have them anymore?
I don't know. Actually,
Their
I don't
hairs
remember.
get stuck in the onions?
They just like shed their hairs and they kind of like tend to go everywhere. So
Well,
I think it
really?
was just kind of like
If a golden retriever was playing with your onion. Are you going to eat that onion?
Well, you just peel the onion.
No, sorry, it was it was diced.
Oh,
it was
diced.
a diced onion, like on my
okay.
chopped.
Yeah,
onion.
no.
Okay.
No, you can't get dog hair and
like-
spider hair in your mouth.
Yeah, and we don't
I
have
guess
running
not.
water.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, can we wash it?
Yeah, you don't want to pick spider hair out of your teeth at night.
Yeah. Yeah, that's more, I guess that's what it'd be. And like maybe it'd be itchy while you ate whatever we were
Maybe.
eating. Yeah,
Maybe.
not fun. But it was such a good experience. And like as much as I like had mites, was eating bananas. Like I remember a day too where we're hiking and every lunch we'd get a banana, and every time this grad student would be like, "Oh, how's your banana?" And I'm like,
It's a banana.
"It's a banana."
Yeah.
And then one day, like
Better
near
than
the
yesterday.
yeah, and one day near the end, he's like, "How's your banana?" And I was like, "Oh, it's good." And he's like, "What? Like it's good?" And like by the end of it, I was like, "Why am I leaving? I don't want to go home."
Yeah.
Like I was so sad to leave, but it was just such an experience. And near the end too, so it was just me and this guy who weren't like we were professional, had a very professional relationship, and now we're like each other's like only person to lean on for everything.
Yeah.
And a week before we were leaving, the rest of our lab was coming to do some research, like they're part of their work at our station. And the day they got there, it was like the ball. Like I felt like I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like the party of the century, because it was like more people than just me and this guy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't fall asleep. Like I had talked with everybody and like we were chatting, and I was like, oh, I was like so excited. I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, I just talked to so many different people. Like it was so funny.
That's how we are, right? We're social, just
We're
like
social.
spiders.
We're
We're
social.
just like some spiders.
Just like some spiders.
It's like when we came out of the pandemic quarantine, just to get back. And when we came back here for the first time, it was like nonstop chatter.
Yes,
right?
of course.
I imagine. Yeah. How was that teaching during the pandemic?
It was strange. Like besides the weird teaching, which none of that really worked. I mean, we learned how to. I developed my video making skills. Mr. Kim went all in on his video making skills.
Whenever he
learning.
goes in on anything, he goes all in.
fully in, like buying packages of special effects for his videos and stuff. He made a ton of really cool videos. But it was like almost you were sending stuff and talking to a wall. Like there was very little feedback or response. And anytime, like when we were doing Zoom calls, sometimes you would get a student, asking a question, but most of the cameras would be turned off, or some kids just never showed up and you had no idea what was going on with them, right? Everybody was struggling with something. But yeah, it was not a nice experience. And on top of that, you have fears of like, where's this going to go? There's no vaccine yet. Are we all going to die? Like what's happening? You're trying to keep things normal for the people you're interacting with as a teacher. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, you're going, I have no clue where this is going. Right. And in hindsight, it was a cool experience because not everybody can say they lived through a pandemic. Like we lost some people, which is really sad. But to make it through that and to think about, okay, we actually survived through that is interesting. But during the time, lots of existential dread for sure.
Yeah. Do you think as a teacher, like I often think about what drives teachers for some reason? I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to give a shout out to Isaac Adams, who just recently became a high school
Isaac.
teacher. And you start thinking about like teaching and the philosophy behind it and all that. Do you think like not being able to see the people learn, like was that like one of the hardest parts?
Yes.
Like is that what drives you as a teacher? Like
Absolutely.
Is that like light bulb moment for people?
Yeah.
It's the interaction and a lot of it, it's not just, okay, here's a lesson I've prepared and here you go. And then I'm going to mark it and that's it. It's not that transactional that way. It's more, I can have a conversation with you. We can talk about the learning, and I can see from your face that you get it or you're excited about it. I think a lot of it for me is when I'm teaching, I do like to see people get excited about certain things or become active to want to do something, right? I deal with a lot of kids who, like in engineering and infotech, it's about making projects and lots of hands-on work. So a lot of them go deep into that regardless of what I've taught them, they go beyond that, and that's how I know. Oh, that's really cool. Let's show the class. And I'm very proud of a lot of my students, and when you can't see that, when it's a one-way transactional operation and it becomes robotic, like you're talking about, like for scientists, there's no satisfaction in it for me.
Yeah. I often tell people that teaching is all about relationships. There's the curriculum, and that's important. And then there's, we have to do report cards, and there's all like the business of teaching. But what it really is, it's about relationships. It's about the way that we interact with young people and the way that they interact with us and the way that we build trust. I don't know, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus because you went to Delview. I don't want you to talk smack about some of your teachers, but like it's proven time and time again that students don't learn from teachers they don't like. And it's really hard to like someone you don't know. So you have to know people. And when you're talking to a computer, it's not the same.
Yeah.
And I even found it difficult, not as difficult, but when we came back and we were teaching to masks. And you couldn't really see a kid's response, like I found that very difficult. But even though I'm a person that has like germophobia and health anxiety and all this kind of stuff, unlike Mr. Kung's existential dread, I listened to Bonnie Henry, and she would always say, "This isn't forever. This is for now." And I put all my faith in that. I was like, this really sucks now, but we will get over this. Like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It was a matter of when, not if. Yeah. But you had to keep faith in that.
It was a long now. It was a long time of because then you'd have, I remember it was, the COVID was in spring, I guess the COVID.
March 13th, 2020.
Yes. I remember because I was over at my friend's house and I was like, we get 2 weeks off of school. I should stay over and play board games even later than I already was going. Yeah. But then it was, then I think by that fall maybe, or you'd have these waves of things being okay. And then all of a sudden things would be really bad again and everything would shut down and then things would be okay. And then I remember there's one semester I do teaching assistant positions, and there was one semester where we started in person and it was looking all good. And then all of a sudden we were like, oh my gosh, pull everybody back online. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I know it's coming and it's going to be fine, but it's like now I thought it was normal and now it's not again, and which is hard. So,
and everything was like moving back and forth. There was a lot of awkwardness, right? Like you don't know how to operate this way. I remember the first time we went outside, with the kids to go to the park. Even then, we were playing a game called Stay Away from the Zombies, which is stay away from people. Yeah. Oh, we see somebody, they're crossing the street. Let's go over to that. It was weird. I was this is so dumb.
My kids are so young, and I remember when they said that you couldn't go to playgrounds anymore. Yeah. And that was the worst. So what do? We went to the local elementary school with a soccer ball on a field. And what is a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old supposed to do at the field? How are you going to keep them entertained?
Look for bugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Look for bugs.
Yeah.
No, but it's so funny that you mentioned not throwing our teachers under the bus at Delview as someone who went here, because I find that as a high school, we had such a unique experience about how much we got along with our teachers.
Hey, that's cool.
Nobody else, everyone's what are you talking about? Getting along with your teachers. That's so weird. But we would have teachers there, Matthew, who's I'm still really good friends with. He would go into Mr. Sully's room and just yell at him and scream at him, and we just had such a weird and he'd yell at him, but it was also kind of funny. It was just such a weird it was so trusting. Everybody, I never felt scared of my teachers, but it was also everybody respected them. It wasn't cool. I mean, from my friends and stuff and what we've talked about, just being able to with Miss Schalk, we had Mr. Troy, I don't know, everybody. I'm trying to think of people Mr. Lobman, Mr. Waldman. Yeah. Everybody was you just walked around the school and you were I'm not afraid of any of you, but I know that you also, I'm not gonna disrespect your time on purpose. It was it felt really a friendship, where you're which is, I know that's, you're not supposed to be friends with your teacher.
Well, no, but you can be friendly,
yes,
right, without being their friend. Yes.
Yeah, and there was a couple. We went for drinks actually with Miss Schalk and Mrs. Hansen, I think, after high school. Like once we were like, because it was like we're graduated and we were all 19, and it was like so funny, and we just to catch up and see. Like, and I was telling people that, and they're like, "Why would you? What are you talking about?" Like, which is so nice, you know. And like even seeing like I was so excited when I found out that Delby was at the BD. And like I went out and I saw you guys, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't, and like I forget that that's a place that a lot of high schools come to, a lot of schools come to, and I was so excited to see you Delview people again. So it was so fun.
Does anyone else from our school go? I mean, I should ask the teachers, but like,
no, I don't think so. They do send out normally like at the beginning of a week which schools are coming, but I don't think I've seen Delview.
Field trips are hard. Yeah. They're like prohibitively expensive because of transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because of the bus.
The farthest away from everywhere too. It's
Delvy's right smack in the middle of nowhere. So everywhere we go is expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we added UBC a couple years. We've been doing it for a couple of years now. Just as a second field trip for innovation.
For our class,
every year we go to Steveston, so we do the Steveston thing. He used to be the interpreter, still is for our class anyway.
At the
cannery? You see his he's like the poster boy for the cannery.
That's an
he's
old
on the
photo.
Really?
On the big billboard there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
that's so cool. We have a tourism challenge.
Yeah.
I went to their cannery like a couple weeks ago to finish off my stamping.
Oh, nice.
My tourism system.
I'm on the board of directors for the cannery.
Okay.
And that's technically a volunteer role, so we get to participate in tourism challenge as well.
Oh,
nice. So I got my stamps. So I'm still waiting to get my little QR code so I can get into everywhere.
Dude, it's so much fun.
Oh, it's the best.
Do you know what the tourism?
No, I don't know the tourism challenge.
So this year was actually the 25th year, which makes me feel like really old because I did the tourism challenge when I started working at the aquarium in 2004, 2005, right? So basically, Tourism Vancouver as an entity wants to promote like tourism within the industry so that like if you're from New York and you come to Vancouver for a convention and you go to the concierge and you say, hey, look, I got a couple days. I'm looking for places to go. Oh, that's great. What are you interested in? And the concierge would actually be able to speak to a lot of these places because you've been there. Like you can recommend places. So they started this thing called the Tourism Privilege Pass Challenge. And what you get in the month of May is you get a little booklet. And you have to be a participating organization. And what the booklet gets you is yourself and one guest into that attraction for free. And then you go and they give you like some kind of scavenger hunt or a challenging question. You have to go through the museum or attraction, answer the question. And if you can get 25 stamps and you get a stamp for every place you go to. If you can get 25 stamps within the month of May, then you get it used to be a plastic card.
That's what my boss was telling me.
And you used to have to line up at a hotel ballroom for hours to get your picture taken. Now they just do it as a QR code. But that will get you and a guest into all of those attractions free for the year.
Wow. Okay, so you have to visit 25 sites, not just museums.
Some are worth 2.
Okay.
Like the further out from the downtown core you get, they're worth 2.
Like the mining museum?
Exactly. Britannia Mine Museum would be worth 2. I don't want to call it cheated because I did my 25 stamps, but I did most of mine in the Fraser Valley this year because you can hit
100%.
far fewer places and get the 2 stamps at most of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you get to go for free for the whole year. And like
this is just for people in the industry?
In the industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Employees and volunteers. And it's hotels as well. Hotels are part of this as well. It's great. So you did your stamps?
Great. Yeah, it's so great. It's such a great, like, I went to so many places I either haven't been since I was like a kid and have no reason to go to, or I've just never been because I had no reason to go. Right. Like the Vancouver Museum, because there's strats to it. So you like plan your route.
Yeah.
So,
the Vancouver Museum, the Planetarium, and the Maritime Museum, they're all so close together. So like there's an automatic 3 stamps right there.
Right. Yeah. So, and I went to the Vancouver Museum. It's great. It's
great.
Such a great spot. And I think I must have gone when I was a kid, but it's so nice. And you really like sometimes you go and you're like, I just need my stamp. Like if it's like, but then sometimes you just like, I got to like walk around. I took my mom. She was like, oh, I really want to do this stamp thing with you too. And then you get to go for the whole year with like one other person for free. And like the aquarium nowadays, I'm pretty sure it's like $50 a person or something. So it's
expensive. Yeah.
They even charge for kids too. So like I can only take one kid at a time.
Okay.
Well, a lot of places, like if you're 5 or under, you're free.
Right.
So I'm good this summer because my youngest is 5. So this will be my last summer. Next summer, if I still do the passport, I'm gonna have to pay for a child. But the aquarium, you always have to pay for a kid.
Yeah. But Vancouver Museum, like I went there for some free gala thing for a kid who, my wife works at Churchill, and there was a kid, one of our students made a miniature of the planetarium in the surrounding area. And so they were unveiling that. And so we got to go in there for free. And I don't think I've ever been there. And I walked around, I was like, hey, there's so much cool stuff to see. But my wife was like looking at her watch. She's like, we got to go for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, I got to go back to that.
The only thing I wish about the Museum of Vancouver, like it is really cool. They got a great collection. I just wish it was bigger.
Yeah.
Like when you compare it to like the Royal BC Museum in Victoria, it's like, man, Vancouver's a much bigger city. Why don't we have like a big central museum?
Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty small.
But we have a lot of really great little museums, which is super cool.
Yeah. Some places I'd never been to that the tourism challenge got me out to was all of the museums in Chinatown. I live kind of close to Chinatown, so I could walk there, which was really great. And there's so much history there that you really don't appreciate.
Oh, totally.
Like, there's like you walk around and you're like, oh, this place is so cool, and like, oh, I know that this is where like a large population of Chinese people immigrated to. That's so cool, an established neighborhood. But then like there's so much like. You learn about like individual stories of people who like set up a photography business and where it was. And I'm such a horrible memory. There's this one man who was like a really influential business person, and he set up this like apartment building, and it's like he had like 80 people living in this apartment building, and he had created a whole business, and there was a school in it. Yeah. And there was this whole history, and all of his grandkids like lived in this apartment complex, and because they didn't want their children out on the street, that they created a whole compound, commune almost, if you will, just for them to be able to exist in like safely in their community, which was like such a crazy story. And I'm like, I had no idea about this. So it's like such a great challenge to get you to like actually learn more about the city. Like I grew up here and I didn't know I don't know so much still.
I don't know that story. I haven't been to any of those new Chinatown museums.
It'd be cool if that was open to the public. Like I don't get to do the tourism challenge.
But Mr. Tour
but you can take me.
I can take you. We can go on little field trips.
I'll come.
I'm in.
We could take one other person.
Yes.
Yeah. You know I'm in.
Yeah.
I love
and there are some museums in our area that are free.
Yeah.
Like even though they're on the tourism challenge, like one of my favorite little local museums is the one in Surrey. The Surrey Museum is excellent and it's free.
Yeah.
Right? Burnaby Village Museum.
Yep.
You have to pay for the carousel, but the village, the Heritage Village is free. Like why do people not go to these places? They're fabulous. Free. If you're listening to this podcast, go to those places. They're free. Free.
Which is why they should open it to the public to just experience that, right?
There should be like, I mean, why don't you just volunteer for an organization?
There you go. Yeah.
Come be a volunteer at the cannery. You spend enough time in Richmond.
Yeah.
You could be a weekend docent and give tours of the cannery and then.
Oh, I don't have the memory to be a docent.
Oh, shush.
I can make up stuff, I guess.
You don't have to know anything. You just look at the sign above you and talk about it.
I can't do what you do.
No,
Mr. Turton, he gave a whole tour of downtown of Chinatown area, and one time during one of our field trips.
That was fun. But what the only thing that sucked about that is I spent so much time prepping this like little walking tour that we had built.
Yeah.
I only got to deliver it once. Like, well, that's sad. We should do that one again.
You should do
We should do that one again.
Yeah.
How was the BD?
Oh, it's awesome.
Do you guys like it there?
Yeah. We love going there.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to go there. I'd been there a couple times before we took the students, and
we've been there twice now.
I've been there with my son as well.
Yeah, but as a class, we've been twice.
Right.
And I think the plan would be to do it again.
Yeah.
We usually get the same interpreter. What's his name?
Oh, I forget his name.
Oh, Sunny?
No.
I don't know. Even if you said his name.
Yes.
What?
Okay, Vi.
Vi.
Yeah.
They're great. They're so great.
Yeah.
No. Our interpretive team is amazing.
Yeah.
Our exhibits team is amazing. Everybody at the museum, I've never worked in such like fun community of people before. And it's so fun being on like the curatorial side. And then you have like people are divided into their organismal groups, which is hilarious. But no, the people there. So did you guys do like, is it like the school tour? You kind of run through all the different.
Yeah.
I should do it because I don't know anything about the other collections.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I know nothing about plants. I know nothing about the tetrapods. So, but yeah, that's so great.
Yeah. Like I think as long as we can keep getting kids to pay for the bus, we'll keep coming.
Do you take transit?
No, we
like
get a school bus.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. It'd be too hard. Like you could do it, and maybe when the Broadway corridor SkyTrain opens, that becomes more reasonable. But right now, a school bus makes the most sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like 2 hours one way.
Yeah.
To UBC.
All right. Well, it's been nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thanks for coming here. Oh, no. That was good rambling. You told a lot of cool stories.
Whenever I am like a co-host with Mr. Collins' podcast, I always say like, we could do a part 2 of this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. But
yeah, maybe we will.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks so much for having me.
You have so much experience, and it's you made quite an impression while you were a student here. So it's great it was cool to bump into you at the Bida and go, you work here now? Like, what's the story? And come in for the podcast,
Yes.
right?
Well, I appreciate coming, and it's probably so cool to see too, like that's the other thing about W teachers, like how much they cared about us, like during our time here, where I think they're really excited to see like where are they now.
Oh, totally.
And I'm gonna give another shout out to my friends, because I'm like, it's so fun watching your friends say they're gonna do something and then like it come to fruition, and now we're at that age where everyone's like in there starting their career paths, and it's like so beautiful and inspiring, and I'm so proud of everybody. So
that's awesome.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
we need to get more class of 2018 on the podcast.
Yeah, it's the best grad class, I guess, or whatever.
It was a good grad class for sure. All right, thank you for coming here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.